For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Glad to have you on. Glad we're having a good internet day, because last time when we had Kelly on, it was just like, oh, this is bad. And we were supposed to have you on, I think, a couple of days later, and it's like,
we live in the middle of the ocean, you know.
Yeah, I feel you.
Let you go.
Yeah. But first off, I want to thank you so much for giving us the time to sit down and chat. I'm really excited to talk to a fellow Midwesterner. I was going to say South Chicagoan, but I don't really consider South Bend and Elkhart.
And why is Indiana, Michigan, Midwest?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure that.
Northern.
I've been trying to figure that one out, but everybody always told me it was like the Midwest, and I was like, it makes no sense.
Makes no sense, but that's what everybody says. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you were born in Elkhart. What's kind of your background, like origin story?
Origin story. Huh. Well, I grew up mostly in Michigan.
Okay.
My younger years, our family we lived on a farm, basically. It wasn't a working farm that we made money from. It was a working farm that provided us food, and we had huge vegetable gardens, cows. I had a horse. It was that kind of upbringing when I was younger, and I equate a lot of who I am to that part of my life, because protecting, honoring, loving the earth is a huge part of who I am, and also I have 5 siblings, so we had a pretty big family for that time. I mean, back then when people ask how many is in your family, and I say 6 kids, they go, "Oh, are you Catholic?" No, we weren't Catholic. We were brought up Baptist, so church was a staple in our life, and mostly I think someplace that my parents could go and the kids could be put into their classrooms and stuff, and they would have time to breathe. But it was sort of my my introduction to music, being in the choir and stuff like that. My mom was a singer, and she was always in the choir, so that was where music was first brought into my part of my life. And then growing up, I had a music teacher that for some reason thought I might be good at being on stage, and he got me involved in the community theater by saying, "Hey, your dad's a builder, right?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." And he invited me in to help build sets, and from there, he let me be in the cast of West Side Story as Baby John. And you got to be in fights and see the pretty girls, and I was hooked. So it was just part of my life from then on. Being in theater, pretending was just
fun, all in general.
Fun, but I was in an acting class, when I was in my mid-30s, and listening to an acting teacher say there was a study at some time that actors could be the most healthy people because they get to pretend like kids all the time. And pretending is one of the most healthy things you can do. It's just the other business part of acting that screws them up. Yeah. So I'm pretty fortunate in that I was able to do something that it was just fun, like you said.
And so you were born in Indiana, grew up in Michigan, and then when you graduated high school, you ended up moving to Boston, or was it junior high you attended high school in Boston?
No, I that music teacher I was just talking about, he had a son and who was older than myself, and they moved to Boston to go to Boston Conservatory of Music.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was going, I don't know, what am I going to do once I graduate high school?
Yeah.
He was, he said, just come here, try the conservatory, see what it's like. And so I went into a program that was actually one of the few music theater programs in the country where you combine the drama, because the school had the three departments: drama, dance, and music, and this program involved all three. So there again, I just started, and about my second year, I figured, man, we had some speaker come in that really impressed me. Somebody who was on Broadway working, and who had gone to the school, and their talk with me really impressed me. That because up to then I was just kind of floating, doing, first time away from home, etc. And their little speech really hit me that I had to work hard to make this work. And so my work ethic kicked in that I got from my parents, and from Boston moved to New York, and off went my career.
Yeah. And so after you moved to New York, that's when you really started focusing. Did you start focusing in on music first, or was it acting, or was it kind of a combination of the two?
Yeah, it was a combination. When I first moved, I worked in a deli, and somebody there said, "Hey, I've got a vocal teacher." So I hooked up with a voice teacher, started acting classes, still went to dance classes. Just one of and the deli thing was great because I could do all my classes and my auditions during the day, and I worked there in the evening. That gave me my dinner, would take home my my breakfast, so provided meals for me. So being a starving actor wasn't quite the starving part. I at least got two good meals a day. And actually I was with my voice teacher for, I don't know, 9 months or so, and she said, you really need a manager. And I was like, okay. So she introduced me to this manager, and the manager said, so you want to be on stage singing and dancing, right? I was like, yeah. She said, well, let's get you in TV, and if you're successful, then you can do any stage you want. So in the long run, what she said worked, because I did As the World Turns for a couple of years. Moved out to LA. They convinced, and first when I was in LA, I was like, I've done daytime TV. I'm on to movies. I'm on to nighttime TV. And my agent kept trying to get me to audition for soap operas. And it's like, no, I've done that. My career is beyond that. Finally, I was like, okay, I'll go audition for this Days of Our Lives thing. And then there's the history.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Good thing I did.
Yeah. And I mean, there's worse things in the world, right?
No, yeah.
But so you get the gig at Days of Our Lives, and you're on there, or you're featured on the show on and off throughout the 90s, and then into the 20 teens. But in between there, you're still working on music. So how is it kind of balancing your musical aspirations and maybe your acting aspirations?
Well, they're kind of combined, because what I did while I was on the show, we had 2-week vacations every year, and for 3 or 4 years there, I would go and do music theater. I went and did Pirates of Penzance, Carousel, and a couple others. So I just combined them, and I don't know, singing, the Days of Our Lives was just all encompassing. I mean, I was extremely busy on that. So after a while, trying to keep the music part of who I am
Yeah.
uh, kind of went by the wayside, because it was just not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
And then I met this incredible singer, songwriter, producer person, and she convinced me to put together an album. So, and she did the album for the show. Kelly uh, said, "Hey, you've always, b- been a singer." And at that point, it had been probably 10 years since I had sung, and we did this album, and it was fun, and it sort of brought music back in my life. But it was difficult because having someone as a partner who was as incredible as she is at what she does, it was like, for me, singing was just kind of fun.
Yeah.
But for her, it's obviously a passion. It's just who she is. It's part of her being. And when she sings, it's just like she's channeling
Yeah.
many other singers or something, because her performances are just astounding.
Yeah.
So singing in front of somebody like that was a little,
A little intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got you. Oh, one thing I've always kind of been curious about, what's the shooting schedule like for a soap opera like Days of Our Lives?
Well, at the beginning, when I was working 4 or 5 days a week, it was all, you go in and you'd have to be there at 6:30 in the morning, and, rehearse or actually camera, no, block they block the actors with the director. Then they go through the whole show, block the cameras with the actors doing the thing. Then you do a dress rehearsal, and then you go in and tape the whole show. So, and we do at that time, it was 47 minutes or something. No, 43 minutes of show in a day, which is, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, you'd be at the studio 10, 12, 15. If there were stunts, like fights or things like that, you're there for, 18 and 20 hours a day. And at that time, I was doing pretty much 5 shows a week.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just crazy busy. As budgets went away, in the last 20, 30 years or 20 years, budgets sort of got cut down and down and down. We stopped going outside the studio for things. And it got to, when I was last doing the show, you would have a talk through with the director. Then you'd have sort of a dress through so that the cameras knew what they were supposed to shoot, and you would tape it, and you better get it the first time. And so it was,
you get it the first time because they're not reshooting it. 2
rehearsals and you're taping it. So it was really fast.
Yeah.
Just saving time. And so you really had to be prepared. You had to really rehearse with your scene partners beforehand, and just trust that it was, let's go.
Yep. And how far ahead were you shooting? Was it like a week ahead of time, or was it a little bit more than that?
No, most often it was a month ahead of time, but there were times where we would get further ahead, like when the Olympics were on and we were preempted, we'd get further ahead. Last time I was on the show shooting those last things, the show was like 6 months ahead.
Oh, wow.
But then with COVID, they shut down and the show kept airing, and I'm not sure where they're at now or how they're even doing what they're doing, but they're still going.
Yeah. As it's one of those things where it's just like Hollywood found a way to even keep working through the pandemic. So,
I mean, and we did. It didn't matter. I mean, there's a couple of people who put my scenes on, or Days of Our Lives scenes on Twitter, and my daughter never watched the show when she was younger
Yeah.
because she couldn't deal with daddy, kissing somebody else or having a daughter who wasn't her and
Yeah.
stuff. But now she's interested in wondering why people talk about her dad the way they do. And so every now and then I show her scenes from the show. And Angie, one of the people who puts stuff on Twitter, if I ask her to show some stuff, she'll put it on, and she showed the scenes where, okay, in these shows I had stitches in my lip because of an accident in one of the fights during the show. In this show, I had a black eye, and in this show, I had a broken collarbone. So you didn't not work.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I never, like, my mom never grew up watching like the soap opera thing because it was one of those things where if you missed an episode or you missed a day, you were out of the loop completely. And so she just.
Well, that was in the earlier days, but most of the time when I was on, you kind of get a recap at the beginning of every week. So those people who missed a couple of shows, they get a catch up.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so luckily I didn't watch, or not luckily, but I didn't watch a lot of soap operas. But I had a pastor when I grew up that Days of Our Lives was his thing. Every day at noon or whenever it came on in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's what he watched. And in the sermons on Sunday, it was
no way.
It was he would take some kind of a story that happened and work it into his sermon. As like a comparison.
New one on me. That is crazy.
Yeah. And I'm just like,
I've heard all sorts of stories. That one I've never heard. Yeah, that's crazy.
He would take I can't give you a specific example because this was 15 years ago, but it was like we'd be sitting there and he's like, and First Corinthians, whatever.
Oh, no.
It's like what happened on Days of Our Lives. It's like, oh, geez. Okay.
That is nuts.
Yeah. And so it's funny. Oh, so you released your first album in 2002, correct? Or were you releasing music prior to that?
No, I wasn't.
No? Okay. So you released your first body of music in 2002, and it's been a little bit, but then you started releasing music on the Joy album, which released earlier last year. Yeah. It's so weird for me to say 2020 is last year because it doesn't feel like 2020 was a thing. But so what's and then now you've got a new body of work coming out here, hopefully this year. Is that kind of the plan, or?
Probably that's what we've been talking about. Yeah.
Gotcha.
We haven't, Kelly's moved along with her music and Kenny's moved along with his music and actually starting the Christmas album for next year. So we don't go through the craziness we did this year.
Yeah.
But, and mine is at this point an idea. Yeah. Let's do this. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So how did it feel to get back in the saddle releasing music after taking some time off? It was through the Joy Christmas album.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, like I said, I was a little bit intimidated doing that first one, and I thought at first that I would be kind of nervous going in and singing for Kelly and Kenny and doing this, and it didn't feel that way for some reason. Maybe it's just where I am in my life that I thought, we'll just have fun. We'll do this and see what happens. There was I didn't feel any pressure. It just sort of was, and I think that was the whole feeling of the whole LP, of the whole album. Mm-hmm. I mean, the name Joy is very appropriate for it because I directed a couple of the videos and I got to tell you, they were just so much fun to do and easy. And I mean, it was, yes, it was, we did a lot of work in a very short time. that part was crazy, but the work itself was pretty effortless.
Mhm.
It was, I mean, for me anyway, um, it was just fun to get back and sing.
Yeah,
And that's why when Kelly said, wow, this turned out great and
yeah.
everybody loved it. What do you say? You want to do some more? I was like, sure.
Sure, let's
Like,
do it.
sure. Yeah, I guess so.
Nice.
So
As,
yeah, fun.
so was so for Joy, you had what, two or three songs, right?
No, I just did one on it.
Just did one? Okay.
Yeah, I think.
But you were very heavily involved on the video production because
Yeah,
obviously that's kind of your thing. So,
yeah. I knew what
was
I was
this
looking at.
was this your first run of doing production, like actual producing and stuff, or had you produced stuff prior when you were still doing the like uh Hollywood thing, I guess?
Uh, I haven't produced any. Yes, it was first time with real directing
Okay.
on something that came out that people could see, um, uh, and help. I did a lot of the lighting and things, and just making sure that things were there when they needed it. And yeah, it was my first attempt, or our first attempt at putting something out there that people actually were able to enjoy. So that's why I'm saying it was just so easy.
Hmm.
And I guess mostly because Kelly and Kenny and I and Jason have done this for all our careers. So it was, and we're finally doing things that we love to do. So it was just a joy to do.
Nice. Gotcha. And so now that the Christmas album's out and you're working, you're heavily involved in the second one that'll come out in November, December, whenever it comes out. And you'll have music on that one as well, or are you gonna
Yeah,
primarily? Okay.
yeah, I'll have something on there. And I think the fun thing that one of the ideas, it's just an idea right now, is my daughter and I are going to sing a duet.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so that's I'm hoping that will happen. And she wrote a song actually for me at Christmas, or for us at Christmas, and that might be, she's like Kelly. She writes songs all the time, so it'll depend on which one Kelly really thinks is appropriate for the Christmas album. So I'm excited about that.
Gotcha. What's kind of your creative process when you sit down to write music?
I don't write music; I
Okay.
just sing it. Um, Kelly and Loden sort of have a similar thing where they, I mean, I remember one of my first gifts to Kelly was this necklace, and it had a little pencil on it that had a little sleeve to protect it, and I gave that to her because she just every now and then a song would just appear in
Mhm.
her. Have to get it out, so I gave her a pencil so that she could write it down. You know, right now she just picks up her phone and sings a song into her phone, so it works a little easier that way for her. But and Loden is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll just have an inspiration and sit down, and you know in 10 minutes she'll have a song written. I mean, she wrote, when my dad passed, she wrote a song about my dad and she just thought, hey, Dad, I'm going to go write a song for Grandpa. And, she writes this song, it just rips your heart out.
Mhm.
I don't know how they do it, but
Yeah,
I'm just singing the stuff. I don't write it.
I gotcha. That makes sense. So you're out in New Zealand now, but you're originally from Michigan. Do you still have family in Michigan, or is most of your family kind of spread out at this point?
I have two sisters in Michigan, and the rest of the family is in Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phoenix. That's
Actually, I should be getting a text because my younger brother is in Los Angeles, and his daughter is about to have a baby.
oh wow.
So he said last night I got a text from him that he was flying to LA so he can be with her when the baby's born.
Oh wow, that's got to be exciting,
Mhm.
especially like I mean, it's got to be exciting and scary given the current climate of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Hey.
yeah, I mean, I know plenty of people that have had kids. Like, it'll be interesting to see the next big boom of kids because of the pandemic. You know,
Yeah, it's true. I never thought of that.
yeah. Oh, so we outside of music, outside of film and TV and all that stuff. What are some of your hobbies? What do you do to kind of escape from the world?
Escape is still the same for me. I'm a mountain biker, and just the nature has been, always will be my meditation, my saving grace. I get antsy, I get whatever anxious, go out, ride my bike up a hill, and fly down it, and mountain biking here is just incredible.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd imagine.
Yeah. And the thing is I just out my front door, I have some of the top biking in the world.
Hmm.
So, and the cyclists here are just awesome. I mean, I'll think I'm doing well, and some lady in her 50s comes riding by me on the uphill. I'm like, what the?
It's like I thought I was doing so well, and then
Yeah,
somebody
I
just
was in
comes
shape. No.
ripping right
Um,
past you. It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
not doing
and
that
I'm
well.
also I spend so much time with Loden. You know, Kelly's so busy that I'm the guy who drives her around to her, and she and I are doing kung fu together.
Nice.
Uh, and I spend a lot of time with our daughter.
Gotcha. So I gotta ask because do you miss acting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now that Loden is getting a little older and doesn't, is she loves me still, but she's like, Dad, I need my time. And so I have gotten an agent, and hopefully, yeah, I'll get back at it because I didn't miss it enough to have it be a priority in my life because Loden has been my priority.
Hmm.
But now that she's busier with other things, then it'll give me some time to hopefully get out and get back to acting. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, would you have to start making trips back to LA, or is there enough work out in New Zealand that you can?
Yeah. Well, with the circumstances of COVID, a lot of productions are coming here
Mhm.
because we're we're pretty safe here. We're not. COVID is not. I mean, it's an issue. We're
Yeah.
keeping an eye on it,
Well,
but
you
it's
guys
not.
have the distinct advantage of being an island, and you can kind of control who comes in and who comes
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of productions are coming here because we're pretty wide open. As long as you spend your 2 weeks in quarantine,
Yep.
you're good.
Yep. That makes sense. So,
Yeah.
so you're looking to get back on the horse and go back at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. And working on the album, doing that thing. Um, so one of the things that we like to do on Live and Amplified is pass on knowledge to younger musicians, um, that are getting ready to take that next step or they're getting ready to make the first big step, like however you want to look at it.
Hmm.
What advice do you have for a young musician out there right
Musician.
now?
Yeah.
Or just
Yeah.
a young entertainer in general?
Or artist. Yeah.
Yeah, artist. There you go.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think for pretty much for any artist, it's a difficult world that we've chosen. And like I said at the beginning, I got to the point in my life where I was like, wow, if I want to make this work, I'm going to have to devote everything to it. And and you have to make sacrifices. And I think the biggest thing I got from my parents was my work ethic. And when I was on days, I would spend that 15 hours a day. It was all about the show. On the weekends, it was all about learning my lines for the next week. The amount of time I spent to be successful was just stupid. I look back at it now. I was like, what the? And I think as far as artists are concerned, that it has to be the same way. Writers, we're talking to my daughter because she wants to be a writer, songwriter, a novelist. And, you look at your good writers and they get up every day and spend 8 hours a day, whether they're sitting at the desk just looking at a piece of paper or actually writing something. You got to do what you say you're supposed to do. And so many artists that feel like it's not a job, it's just supposed to be something that comes to them. Well, maybe there are people that happens for. But it doesn't. That hasn't been my experience. Hasn't been the experience of most of the successful artists that I know, whether they're singers, songwriters, actors. You have to. This is one thing that when I was in college, I remember somebody saying, if there's something that you're holding in your back pocket to fall back on it. Now, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
If you want to be an artist, that has to be your whole life. You have to dedicate everything to that. So work your asses off.
Gotcha. Who are you listening to right now, like musically? Who are some of your influences you're into right now?
That is not I listen to all sorts of stuff. I listen to what my wife likes when I'm with her. I listen to what Loden likes when I'm with her. When I'm in the car just by myself, I listen to classic rock, and mostly because it just brings me back to, when I was young, listening to Bruce Springsteen and that era. So as far as influences, I think I've been influenced, and that's probably what brings me back to myself is the classic rock stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was raised on. It was always my mom had control of the car stereo, and it was, nope, we're not listening to the top 40. We're listening to the stuff she listened to. And so I was brought into this world listening to like Jethro Tull, Styx, Queen, CCR, just all the good classic rock stuff. So
so poor Loden, she gets a dose of that when I'm taking her to school and picking her up. But she does like it. I do have to say that.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and it's a good foundation. And then like it kind of sucks because I found out about like all the good bands that came out in like the 90s and mid 2000s and all that stuff like 5 years ago. So I'm just sitting there like, wait a minute, who are these guys? Where did they come from? Why am I just finding them now?
Well, I'm a bit like that too, because once I started the show, I didn't really listen to music for because I just didn't have time.
Yeah. And so, no, it's just one of those things, what you know. And then as you kind of get out and expand your horizons, you just can't feel bad about, oh, this band's been out for 20 years, but you're just finding out about them because for whatever reason. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't want to take too much more of your time. So
no worries.
If anybody wants to follow you online, follow your music, anything you're working on, where's the best place for them to do that?
Well, that's the same as Kelly, blueiris.com. blueiris.com. Pretty much everything right now, that's where it'll be. And if I come up with something else, we'll have a link to it off of there.
Awesome. So as we kind of wrap this up, I'm going to ask you the most polarizing question I could possibly ask. But given you're from the Midwest, I'm going to hope you give me the correct answer.
Your correct answer.
Yes, my correct answer. Pineapple pizza, yes or no?
That's funny. That is a big thing in my house because Loudon loves it, and
Uh-huh.
Kelly's what? But I'm with my daughter.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are
I'm a
times
little
when
hurt, but
pineapple ham pizza. Just there's those days that but mostly when we have a new one here that I love. It's a blue cheese
okay.
and a bunch of vegetables. It's just awesome.
Well, I
I've
would have
never
never
had.
thought blue cheese on pizza.
Yeah, that's the thing. It just brings this whole different world into pizza.
Guys, I'll have to look into that one.
Well, it's just as odd as pineapple.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
really pineapples on your pizza.
But it's that thing like growing up in Chicago, the greater Chicagoland area, it was always no, you'll be burnt at
Yeah,
the stake for
yeah.
putting pineapple on your pizza. So yeah, that's kind of why. But as I've kind of been doing the podcast over the last year, like more regularly, I use it as a platform to do nonsense research,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm finding out that the pineapple is a very coastal and southern thing. Like
Oh
just
yeah.
people in the south and on the coast for whatever reason.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
But
good to know.
yeah. But I want to thank you so much for giving us the time to sit
No,
down and chat. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute blast.
it's been
Thank you,
great.
everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.
Okay, cheers.
Bye. All right. We're good to go.
All right, man.
All right. You have a good one. And Kelly's podcast will be up tomorrow, and yours podcast will be up the day after. So Monday for me, Tuesday for you.